He doesn't pull away because he doesn't care. He pulls away because loving you feels like holding a sacred glass heart with shaking hands. You think he's distant, cold, unmoved. But inside, his chest is a room full of alarms. Every time you look at him with that quiet hope in your eyes, something in him whispers, "What if I ruin this too?" He loves you. That's the problem. If you were just another story, he could be careless. If you were just a chapter, he could improvise his lines, promise the sky, disappear at dawn. But you arrived after the storms, after the divorces, the betrayals, the nights he watched a woman he once loved cry because of him. You arrived when his own reflection already accused him. So when you laugh, he feels joy and pressure. When you trust him, he feels warmth and weight. When you say you're okay, he hears the echo of every woman who said, "I'm fine," before leaving. He isn't afraid of your standards. He's afraid of your softness. Because your softness makes him see every sharp edge he still carries. Around you, his love is real, but his confidence is artificial. He looks at your life, your scars, your wisdom, and somewhere inside it feels almost unfair. Like destiny placed a cathedral in the hands of a man who still remembers breaking toys as a boy. So he hesitates. He overthinks. He disappears into himself. Not because your love is too much, but because failing you feels like failing every chance he never got right. And the more his heart reaches for you, the louder one terror grows inside him. What if loving you is the one place he cannot afford to fail, and the one place he's most convinced he will? You keep wondering what's wrong with you, why his eyes fog over right when things start to feel almost safe. You replay the little moments, the way his body tenses when you talk about future, the way he changes the subject when you share something tender and real, the way he says he wants to be there, and then disappears into busyness, confusion, half answers. On the surface, it looks like distance. Underneath, it feels like judgment. Somewhere deep inside, it registers as a familiar verdict. I am too much. I expect too much. I feel too much. You call it disappointment. But what lives beneath is older than this man. It's the feeling of holding out your heart like an open palm and watching someone you love quietly step back, afraid to touch it in case they break it. He doesn't tell you this, but love, for him, is tied to failure, the way thunder is tied to lightning. Every time he cares, he remembers where he dropped something precious. The first time he disappointed a woman who believed in him. The night he heard a door close and knew it was because of his silence, his confusion, his half-grown self. So now, when you offer him your softness, he doesn't only see you. He sees all the places he has already failed. Your trust feels like light on wounds he would rather keep in shadow. And here is the cruel paradox you are standing inside, without words. The more serious you are in his heart, the more dangerous he feels to your life. He looks at you and secretly thinks, if I let her love me all the way, she will finally see everything I cannot hold, everything I cannot fix, everything I never became. You think you are asking him for more, but in his inner world, it feels like you are asking him for a version of himself he has never met. And the woman who stands before him, offering her soul, is the same woman he is most terrified of disappointing beyond repair. It starts in small, almost invisible ways. A pause that lasts 1 second too long. A softness in you that pulls a shadow across his face. You tell him a simple truth about your day, and his gaze drifts, just slightly, to the floor. You reach for his hand, and something in his body becomes careful, calculated, controlled. On the outside, nothing dramatic happens. No fight, no explosion, just a subtle tightening of the air between you, like the room is holding its breath. Inside you, an old ache wakes up. That familiar, wordless question. Did I say too much? Did I ask for too much? Did I just become the woman he leaves? You watch him over-explain why he's tired, why he's busy, why he doesn't want to promise what he can't keep. It sounds reasonable. It feels personal. Because while his mouth is saying, "I just don't want to hurt you," his energy is whispering, "I already believe I will." You are not looking at a man who doesn't care. You are looking at a man who has quietly decided he is dangerous to your heart. So he starts shrinking his presence, hoping to protect you from himself. Answering slower, staying a little later at work, letting your messages sit unread like fragile glass he's afraid to touch. And here is the twisted tenderness of it all. The more he senses your heart leaning in, the more he feels his own history rise up like a warning sign. He isn't just afraid of losing you. He's afraid of watching your eyes change. Afraid of seeing the day when your love for him turns into the same quiet disappointment he still carries inside his own chest. There is a moment you don't talk about. The moment his eyes change. 1 second, he is with you. Present. Soft. Reaching. And then something you say. A dream. A need. A tiny request. Slips into the space between you like a quiet question mark. His gaze flickers. His jaw sets. His words become careful instead of honest. You feel it instantly. The shift. The invisible distance. The way your tenderness suddenly feels evaluated. Without meaning to, you start shrinking your truth. You edit your needs mid-sentence. You rehearse conversations in your head before you ever have them. If I say it like this, will he shut down? If I ask for that, will it push him away? If I show him how deeply I feel, will I become too much again? His fear of failing you becomes your fear of exposing yourself. His terror of not measuring up turns into your quiet obsession with not asking for too big a love. You call it being understanding, being patient, being mature. But underneath, your heart starts living like a student in a classroom with no clear rules. Every smile from him feels like a passing grade. Every silence feels like you've answered wrong. You catch yourself scanning his tone, his timing, his emojis, as if his attention is a spiritual report card. When he leans in, you exhale. When he withdraws, you rewrite your worth. And in the middle of all this, something sacred in you starts to tremble. The part of you that once believed love could be a home, not an exam. Because this is the hidden cruelty of loving a man who is terrified of failing you. He is not trying to test you. He is testing himself. But your heart is the paper he keeps writing on, erasing, rewriting, crossing out, starting over. You feel the eraser marks as doubt. You feel the crossed-out sentences as distance. You feel his unfinished promises as proof that maybe you were asking for a life no one is willing to fully sign their name under. And slowly, quietly, painfully, you begin to dim your own light, just so he doesn't have to see where he believes he falls short. There is a version of him you never fully see. The one that wakes up at 3 a.m. and stares at the ceiling. Not because of you, because of the echo of every moment he already failed someone who trusted him. He remembers the messages he never answered, the promises he broke without meaning to, the look on a woman's face when she realized he wasn't who she dreamed he was. He tells himself he's grown. He tells himself he's different now. But shame has a long memory, and it sits in his bones like winter. So when you appear, not as a distraction, not as a game, but as a real possibility of forever, his whole nervous system lights up. You call it chemistry. He feels it as a countdown. Because to love you is to risk reliving the worst part of his own story. To stand in front of a woman who believes him, believes in him, and feel the old fear rise. What if I can't hold this? What if I can't sustain this? What if she finds out I'm not the man she thinks I am? So he starts doing something he doesn't tell you about. He pre-punishes himself. He lowers your expectations in his mind. He rehearses your future disappointment, like a scene he's already seen. He imagines you realizing he's not as emotionally available as you hoped, not as decisive, not as healed. He can almost hear the soft crack in your voice, see the light dim slightly in your eyes. And because that imagined moment hurts him now, before it even exists, he tries to protect both of you the only way he knows how. He complicates things. He questions himself. He questions you. He questions timing, logistics, details that don't truly matter. Underneath all the "I'm just not sure" and "I don't want to hold you back," there is a quieter confession he never speaks aloud. I would rather lose you because I hesitated than lose you because you finally saw everything I fear I am not. There comes a point where the story bends. Not because the love is gone, but because the fear is louder. He feels himself falling for you. Not in the sweet movie way. In the terrifying real-life way where your absence would actually rearrange his breathing. He notices how your name sits differently in his chest, how your laughter lingers, how the smell of your skin follows him into empty rooms. And with every step his heart takes toward you, another voice inside him tightens its grip. Careful. This is the kind of woman you can damage for years. So the sabotage doesn't come as cruelty. It comes as hesitation. He delays the conversation. He postpones decisions. He reaches out just enough to keep you close, but not enough for you to fully lean. He starts saying things like, "I don't want to hurt you. I'm scared I'll disappoint you. I'm just not where I should be yet." On the surface, they sound like truth. Underneath, they are confessions of a man who has already judged himself and found himself unworthy of your faith. You hear those words and feel split in two. One part of you wants to understand him, to hold his fear like a fragile bird, to show him he will not be punished for being imperfect. Another part of you wants to scream, "If you're this afraid of failing me, why do you keep pulling me closer?" Because that is the paradox tearing at your ribs. His love is what keeps you there. His fear is what keeps you starving. He doesn't see it this way. In his mind, his caution is kindness. If he gives you less of himself, maybe you will have less to lose. But your heart doesn't speak that language. All it knows is this: the man who holds your face with trembling hands, the man whose eyes soften when you're tired, the man who whispers that you deserve everything, is the same man building invisible walls so he never has to watch himself drop what he's terrified of breaking. And without noticing, he starts doing the very thing he fears most, hurting you, not with betrayal, but with a love that never fully arrives. It takes you a while to see it. At first, you think his fear is about you, your standards, your dreams, your depth. But slowly, in all the almost confessions, in the way his voice trembles when he says, You deserve so much. You start to feel a different truth. You are not the problem. You are the mirror. You, around you, his unfinished life has nowhere to hide. The promises he made to himself, the man he thought he would be by now, the courage he swore he would have next time love showed up. Your presence turns those ghosts into reflections. When you talk about partnership, he feels every place he still lives like a lone survivor. When you share your clarity, he feels every fogged-up corner inside his own mind. When you reach for emotional intimacy, he feels the boy inside him who never learned what to do with his own tears. So he starts confusing you with the judgment he carries. He thinks, if she really sees me, she'll be disappointed, not realizing you already see more than he knows, and your heart is still standing there. He imagines you measuring him the way he measures himself. He projects every harsh verdict he has ever spoken in the mirror at 2 a.m. onto your quiet, listening face. This is why your tenderness scares him more than your anger. Anger, he understands, but your soft eyes, your calm words, your willingness to stay, they make his inner self-hatred echo louder. Because if you are that open, if you are that believing, if you are really ready to receive his whole life, then he has to face the one question he has avoided for years. Does he have a whole life to bring you? Or only fragments, half-lived dreams, and a heart still learning how to stay? So when he pulls back from you, he is really pulling back from himself. When he avoids the depth in your eyes, he is avoiding the boy inside who still feels like he never quite grew into the man he promised the world he would be. And quietly, without words, you become the doorway he stands in front of, knowing that on the other side is everything he wants, and everything he fears he cannot hold. It doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in tiny, holy betrayals you barely notice. You start by softening one sentence. Then you swallow one need. Then you tell yourself, "It's fine, I don't need that," when your whole body knows you do. You call it patience. You call it understanding. You call it giving him time. But underneath, something sacred in you starts stepping to the side, making room for his fear. You begin to adjust your rhythm to his hesitation. You slow your heart so it doesn't scare him. You dim your joy so he doesn't feel behind. You shrink your longings so he doesn't feel like a failure before he even starts. You think, if I make it easier, he'll feel safer. If I ask for less, he'll be less afraid of disappointing me. And so, slowly, you become the woman who comforts his anxiety while your own heart sits alone in the next room. You start explaining him to yourself. You start explaining him to your friends. You build entire cathedrals of justification around a man who still isn't sure he can hold your hand without breaking something. There are nights you lie awake and feel the ache in your chest. Not because he's cruel, because he's cautious, because he loves you and still doesn't choose all the way. And this is the wound that hurts the most. Not being unloved, but being half-loved by someone who looks at you like a miracle and still treats you like a risk. You tell yourself you can handle it, that you've survived worse, that you'd rather have almost with him than emptiness without him. But there is a deeper truth moving beneath your justifications, a quiet whisper that refuses to die. Every time you protect him from his fear of failing you, you are failing the part of you that came here for real love. The woman who once promised herself she would never abandon her own heart again, now finds herself doing it gently, politely, beautifully. In the name of understanding a man who is still praying, he won't break the very love that is slowly breaking you. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No slammed doors, no broken plates. Just two people, one late hour, and a silence that suddenly has weight. You say something small, almost ordinary. Maybe it's, "Where do you see this going?" Maybe it's, "I need to know you're really here." Your voice is calm. Your eyes are steady. But your soul is trembling in its own quiet way. For a second, he freezes. You can almost see the war begin behind his eyes. One part of him wants to pull you close, promises spilling out, heart in both hands. Another part whispers, "If you give her everything, you won't be allowed to fail." He looks at you, and you are not just a woman in front of him. You are every crossroad he's ever avoided, every choice he delayed, every moment he turned away from his own courage. Your question is simple, but what he hears is, will you finally become the man you keep saying you want to be? His throat tightens. His words come out slow, fragmented, wrapped in, "I don't know," and "I'm scared," and "You deserve more than I can give right now." On the surface, it sounds like humility. Inside, it feels like a soft earthquake. Because this is the first time you both feel it clearly. His fear is no longer just his. It has roots in your body now. It has taken space in your chest. It has started to change the way your own heart moves. For a brief, holy moment, the roles fall away. He is not the man who might fail you. You are not the woman asking for too much. There is only this, a human being shaking in front of love, and another human being realizing that every step she takes closer is another chance for him to prove his worst story true. Or finally, mercifully, false. The air holds its breath. Your heart holds its breath. And somewhere between his terror and your longing, a quiet knowing rises. Something cannot stay the same after tonight. There is a line you didn't know existed until you feel your toes right against it. It isn't between you and him. It's between who you become with his fear and who you came here to be. He sits in front of you, eyes glossy with truths he can almost say, "I'm scared. I don't want to hurt you. I don't know if I can be what you need." Every word is honest. Every word is heavy. Every word asks you silently, "Will you carry my doubt for me?" You feel the familiar urge rise up, to hold him, to reassure him, to say, "It's okay. We'll figure it out. I don't need much." You almost reach for the script you've always used. The understanding woman, the patient woman, the woman who can absorb another man's unfinishedness like a tide swallowing broken glass. But something in you hesitates this time, not out of punishment, out of remembering. You remember the girl who once waited years for someone to be ready. You remember the woman who shrank every longing until she couldn't find herself in her own life. You remember standing in other rooms with other men, hearing different versions of the same sentence, "I'm afraid I'll fail you." And you remember how you answered each one, with self-abandonment, dressed as love. Tonight, the memory doesn't come as bitterness. It comes as a quiet, sacred clarity. You look at him, at the way his chest rises and falls, at the boy hiding behind a man's shoulders, at the love in his eyes wrestling the terror in his bones. You see, maybe more clearly than he does, that his fear is real, that his love is real, that neither cancels the other. And yet, there is a third reality standing between you, one that has no compromise in it, your life. the years you still have, the mornings you have not woken up in yet, the children you may or may not have, the work your soul still wants to do, the softness in you that is not a prop for a man's unfinished story. For a heartbeat, it all aligns inside you. You can feel how deeply he doesn't want to fail you. You can feel how deeply he still might. You can feel how much you love him. You can feel how much you are finally beginning to love the part of you that refuses to become collateral for anyone's fear, even his. And in that fragile, holy space, you understand the line. Not a wall against him, a circle around you. There is a sentence that rises in you before your mind can tame it. It doesn't sound angry. It doesn't sound dramatic. It sounds like truth finally finding its own voice. He is sitting there, eyes full of fear and love and unfinished sentences. The room feels dense with everything neither of you has said. Your heart is pounding, but it's not the old panic. It's something older than your fear of abandonment, older than your patterns, older than this lifetime of waiting for someone to be ready. It is the pulse of your own destiny. You feel every thread at once. The years you've spent translating half love into devotion, the nights you've lain awake convincing yourself that crumbs were a feast, the way your body has learned to live in a constant almost. And then, like a tide turning, something inside simply refuses. Not him, not the love, the story. The story where you are always the one bending, always the one stretching, always the one making your vast, wild heart fit into the small, frightened spaces someone else lives in. Your throat burns, tears gather, not from weakness, but from the sheer relief of finally hearing yourself. You look at him, really look. The man you love, the boy he still is, the fear in his chest, the goodness in his eyes. You see all of it. You honor all of it. And still, beneath the grief and the tenderness, a clear, unwavering sentence forms inside you. I cannot be the place you prove to yourself that you're right about your own failure. You may not say those exact words out loud. You may speak softer. You may whisper. You may simply breathe differently. But he feels it. The shift. The moment when your love for him stops competing with your love for your own life. It is quiet. It is seismic. For the first time, your soul answers before your fear does. There is a strange stillness after your soul speaks, as if the room, the night, your whole history has taken one long breath and is finally exhaling. He feels it, even if he can't name it. The way your body is still here, but something in you is no longer standing on your knees. The way your eyes are soft, but no longer bargaining with his fear. For the first time, you are not rushing in to rescue him from the weight of his own confession. You don't tell him, "It's okay, I don't need much." You don't say, "Take all the time you need, I'll wait." You let his words belong to him. You let his fear live where it was born, inside his own chest, not in the sacred space where your heart used to carry everyone else's storms. It feels almost wrong at first, like you're breaking some ancient rule about what a good woman does with a trembling man. But underneath the old guilt, a deeper current moves. This is not abandonment. This is alignment. You can feel the difference in your bones. Abandonment is cold, sharp, punishing. What you feel now is warm and steady, like placing your palms back onto the altar of your own life. You look at him, and your love doesn't shrink. If anything, it grows more honest. You love him enough to stop pretending his fear is smaller than it is. You love him enough to stop using your own self-betrayal as proof that he is not that scary. You love him enough to let his choices reveal who he is right now, not who you know he could become one day. There is sorrow in this. Of course there is. Sorrow for the boy in him who never learned that he could fail and still be loved. Sorrow for the woman in you who has spent lifetimes trying to be the one who finally proves that to men like him. But woven through the grief is a fierce, unexpected tenderness for yourself. The tenderness of realizing that the most faithful thing you can do with this love is to refuse to let it be the place where you keep saving someone at the cost of slowly losing you. There is a sacred pause after you stop saving him, a space where nothing has happened yet, and yet everything has already changed. He feels it in ways he can't quite articulate. The way your love is still here, but no longer bending itself into shapes that keep him comfortable. The way your presence is just as warm, but no longer cushioning every edge of his fear. For the first time, he is standing on the full ground of his own impact. Your eyes are not accusing, they are simply clear. Your body is not withdrawing, it is simply no longer contorting. You are not issuing ultimatums, you are embodying reality. And reality is simple, even when it is excruciating. You cannot walk for him. You cannot choose for him. You cannot turn his "I'm scared I'll fail you" into "I promise I will show up" by the sheer force of your devotion. In this quiet, something profound becomes visible. If he moves now, it will not be because you pushed. It will not be because you begged, convinced, or proved your worth. It will be because something inside him finally decides that loving you is worth risking his old story of failure. You watch him, not with desperation, but with a strange, aching reverence. He is not your project. He is a soul at a crossroads. One path: stay loyal to the familiar narrative. I am dangerous to what I love. I will only disappoint her. I can't trust myself with something this sacred. The other path: step into the unknown. I might fail. I might stumble. I might get it wrong. And still, I choose to show up again and again, because losing her by hiding is a failure I refuse to live with. You cannot choose which road he takes. All you can do is stand rooted in your own, the road where your heart is no longer available to be the evidence he uses to confirm his deepest fear about himself. If he rises, let it be because his soul remembers its own courage. If he stays small, let it be without your spirit shrinking beside him. This is the holy risk you take. You release control over whether he becomes the man he could be, so you can finally become the woman you already are. In the end, it was never about whether he loved you. He did. He does. That was never the question. The question was always this: what will you do with a love that trembles in front of you more than it stands beside you? There comes a morning, maybe quiet, maybe after tears, maybe after nothing in particular, when you feel it. Something has turned. You are no longer waking up to study his temperature before you locate your own. You are no longer measuring your worth by the angle of his gaze. You are no longer praying that his fear will one day become the proof that you were finally enough. A softer prayer has taken its place. Let me be loyal to the life you put in me. You remember now. You remember that you did not come here to be the stage where a man rehearses his oldest story of failure. You did not come here to keep dimming your holy hunger so love would feel more manageable to someone else. You came here to stand in the full light of what your heart knows, to walk with those who can meet you not as a burden, but as a destiny they are willing to rise into. So you bless him. In the privacy of your own chest, you bless him. You bless the boy who learned to fear his own impact. You bless the man who tried in the ways he knew how. You bless the love that, even trembling, still woke something honest in you. And then, quietly, without ceremony, you hand his life back to his own hands. If he chooses to rise, let it be between him and God. If he chooses to stay small, let it be without you shrinking beside him. You gather your heart, not as armor, as offering, to the road ahead, to the mornings waiting for you, to the love that does not ask you to disappear in order to stay. He loves you, yes, but you are learning to love the part of you that will no longer let fear, his or yours, decide the size of the life you live. And in that sacred, unspoken knowing, something in the air grows very still, as if the whole world is quietly making room for who you are about to become.